Hello, welcome to your first video on the Pythagorean theorem. You'll be able to find the length of any missing side of a right triangle by using the Pythagorean theorem. So what is the Pythagorean theorem? Well, it is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Pretty easy to remember. It does only work for right triangles, so be aware of that. Only right triangles does it work for. The a term and B term, I should say, are leg lengths. And then your C term is your hypotenuse. Your hypotenuse is the longest side on a triangle. So make those notes so that you don't forget. How do you use the Pythagorean theorem to find the hypotenuse length? Well, there's first some things we need to talk about. Here is a picture of a right triangle. Remember, the theorem only works for right triangles. Your C term is your hypotenuse, and then A and B are your legs, so there's a picture. You really can be rotated any direction at all. It can look like anything. Just remember your hypotenuse is the longest length. So here's our first example that we'll do together. And here we're trying to find the length of the hypotenuse. So we're going to set up our formula. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And you just plug in what you know. So I know the a term and the b term are here. And really, it doesn't really matter if you mix up a and b. You just can't mix up c. So a is 5, so 5 squared, plus b is 12, so 12 squared equals c squared, which we don't know. 5 squared is 25, plus 12 squared is 144 equals c squared. Then I'm going to add these terms together, so 25 plus 144 will give me 169 equals c squared. Then to undo c squared, we use the square root. Remember, c squared is c times c, and we just want one c. So square rooting will give us what c is, and that would be 13. So this side length is now 13. Give you one more example here. Here's another triangle. So a and b terms don't really matter, but the c term does. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A is 3, b is 4 equals c squared. So 9 plus 16 equals c squared. 9 plus 16 is 25. So 25 equals c squared. Then we have to square root to solve. So c equals 5. Another way to think about that is what number times itself will equal 25. And that would be 5. So that's your answer. C is 5. Your turn. Please solve for C. Show all of your work and then check in with me when you're done. And you may use a calculator because some of these numbers are getting a little big. But press that pause button. All right, you should have gotten C to equal 25. If you didn't, try and go back, see if you can figure out what mistake you made. Next question is, how do I use this theorem to find the side lengths? Because I told you could find it for any side. So here's our first example. We're going to use the same formula. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And then you just drag and drop. So this is your a term, this is clearly your b term, and this is your c term. So now I have 9 squared plus b squared equals 15 squared. And solve what you know. 9 squared is 81, so 81 plus b squared equals 15 squared. And if you don't know what 15 squared is, that's okay. You can use your calculator. But you should get 225. Now, this is the algebra piece where it comes in. You want to have your variable on the side alone. So I have to move that 81 over to the other side. So now I have b squared equals, and then 225 minus 81 will give me 144. Now I have to square root to undo that squaring, and so b is going to equal 12, which means my side length is a 12. All right, one more example for you in case you didn't totally get what was going on. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. A is here, so this is B and this is C. Remember, C is the longest one. If you're going to make a mistake, it's going to be that you label the hypotenuse wrong and you mix up your C with a different side. So just make sure your C is always your longest one, your longest length. So A squared is unknown, B squared is 8 squared, and then C is 10 squared. So a squared plus, and then 8 squared is 64 equals 100. We need to get the variable by itself, so subtract 64 on both sides, and we get 36. Oops. 36 equals a squared, and then we square root, and then we have a equaling 6. And that makes sense. Great self-check is that if you know what the C term is, that's the longest length, then your answer should always be smaller if you're finding the side length. Your turn to practice finding the side length. Please find what B is. You can use a calculator if you need to. You're probably going to. But check in with me when you're done. Make sure you're showing all your work. All right, you should have gotten B to equal 10. This is the end of your video. Make sure if you have questions that you bring them to class. Otherwise, we will work on this in class. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.